Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Who will be the breakout stars for this Clemson football team going into 2025? I personally think these are some of the more fun offseason conversations that you can have. And you look at this Clemson team, the amount of returning production is part of the reason that I love Clemson heading into 2025. Many of the difference makers already heading into 2025. But if this Clemson team wants to win an ACC championship, be dangerous in the college football playoffs, you probably need to get some breakout performances from some of these guys on this roster as well. Now the question is, all right, who are going to be the breakout guys for this Clemson football team heading into 2025? That is what I want to get into for the next 10 to 15 minutes. I think I got a good list of 5. Before we get into it, as always, to the Clemson fans, let it fly in the comment section. A lot of different names that you could have gone with in terms of breakout players. I'm sure many Clemson fans are going to be ticked off at me because I don't include some names that certainly could be breakout candidates. Let it fly in the comment section. To the Clemson fans, been a blast talking this team. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. And I want to start with, y'all know I love Elijah Thurman, and I thought he looked exceptional as a true freshman before going down with the injury. Now, why is Elijah Thurman such a fascinating football player to talk about for Clemson going into 2025? I think one, because you talk about what does the best version of the Clemson offensive line look like going into the 2025 year. To me, Elijah Thurman pretty clearly going to be part of that starting 5. Number 2 is the versatility and potentially putting Elijah Thurman in a couple of different spots where you can get your best 5 on the football field. We talk about versatility all the time. One of the most important parts about having versatile offensive linemen, or I should say, one of the largest benefits of having versatile offensive linemen is it lets you get creative with who your starting 5 is. And better yet, it allows you to put players in their ideal positions a little bit more. And I look at Elijah Thurman and say, thought this kid was clearly a guard coming out of high school. Clemson sticks him at left tackle as a true freshman, looked really good. Can Elijah Thurman potentially start at left tackle and then allow you to put Tristan Lee back in at guard, where Tristan's played a lot of tackle for Clemson, and it's been solid. It hasn't been great. We did see him play one game at guard, and it was really, really good. And so you start looking at, all right, what's the best version of this Clemson offensive line? I'm kind of playing around with the depth chart and say maybe the best version is Elijah Thurman at left tackle, kick Tristan Lee down to guard, where we've seen him play some really good football, and then Walker Parks works into the 2 deep. Clemson's got 7 offensive linemen that I think they trust a lot. I think the it's not a challenge, but I think the objective for Matt Luke is, what's our best 5? There's a really good chance that your best 5 is with Elijah Thurman at left tackle and maybe kicking Tristan down into guard. We'll see how it plays out. I look at Elijah Thurman and say, one, I think he might be one of the most talented offensive linemen on this football team. And then secondly, allows you to get really creative in terms of what your starting 5 looks like and potentially putting some players in more ideal spots for them to be successful. It's one of the biggest storylines for me with Clemson going into 2025, where we saw Clemson take that step on the offensive line. They were a better unit than they were in 2023. They returned pretty much everyone on the offensive line. Now, can you take another step going into 2025 and have this Clemson unit be, yeah, it was solid in 2024. Can they go be really, really good in 2025? Elijah Thurman, to me, a piece of the puzzle and a guy that I am extremely high on heading into 2025. And you look at just the background of Elijah Thurman. He was an elite basketball player, averaged a double-double on the hardwood, some really impressive throwing numbers in the track and field department. The kid's a box checker in terms of everything that you want to see with an offensive lineman. It's a big offensive lineman that maybe doesn't have ideal tackle length, but certainly has ideal tackle athleticism. Really interested to see where Elijah Thurman fits into this Clemson offensive line. Number 2, and arguably the second biggest question mark, maybe third biggest question mark that we have for Clemson on the offensive side of the football, and that is, Who's going to lock down that tight end spot? Who can be the, for lack of better terms, the difference maker that Jake Bringenstool was for Clemson over the last couple of years? One, we know K. Klubnik likes to work the middle of the field, likes to work it to the tight end position. Jake's been that guy for Clemson the last couple of years. Who can be that day? And it's hard. It's really hard to find difference makers in the pass catching department at the tight end position. Can Christian Bentancur be that guy going into year two? This was a guy 12 months ago in spring practice Dabo Swinney couldn't stop talking about, which made me really excited to see what this kid could do as a true freshman. Didn't really get to see him as a true freshman. I think mostly because probably wasn't there in terms of inline blocking. Look, we know this guy can catch the football. You go back to him at the high school ranks, he was number 2 in the history of the state of Illinois in receiving yards. Legitimate difference maker in the pass catching department. Length, fluid, knows how to work the ball in the air. He's checking all the boxes. Probably should talk about speed as well. Going into year two, with another year in that Clemson weight room, with another year of physical maturation, can he be a guy that can offer you the value needed as an inline blocker, but also be that difference maker over the middle of the field in the passing attack? If you get that from Christian Bentancur in 2025, it's huge for Clemson going into the 2025 year. And from what we've heard from him, this Clemson staff loves him. I can't wait to see what he brings to the table in 2025. Breakout player. This is the first one. We've done this for a bunch of different programs now. I made a rule not to include true freshmen. I'm going to break that rule for Clemson. We're going to talk about Gideon Davidson. The running back position from a depth standpoint became a massive problem for Clemson in 2024. So much so that they had to move Adam Randall to play running back because they just didn't have enough running backs. Now, Phil Maffa moving on to the NFL. Jay Haynes, obviously, with the injury towards the end of the year. Who's going to be running back one for Clemson? Look, there are some guys that you like, including David, that I like at running back. I don't think there's a guy in the room that has the ceiling that Gideon Davidson does. You saw some pictures of him as he early enrolled to Clemson, got involved in some of those bowl practices. Looks the part of a college football running back. 10.69 in the 100-meter dash, averaged over 11 yards per carry during his senior year. Talk about a difference maker for Clemson at the running back spot. Maybe the biggest question we have. And we're pretty confident with the offensive line. Really dang confident with K. Klubnik and the wide receivers. Who's going to be toting the rock for Clemson? I think it can be Gideon Davidson. If he can, look, as a pure ball carrier, I know it can be Gideon Davidson. Is he far enough along from a pass protection standpoint and some of those other intangibles at the running back spot where Dabo Swinney can trust him to be an integral part in this Clemson rushing attack? If so, excuse me, it might just answer the biggest question that Clemson has on the offensive side of the football. Breakout candidates on the defensive side of the football. I want to go to a guy that kind of gets overshadowed a little bit because he came in with guys like Peter Woods and Vic Burley, the top 100 national prospects, 5 stars on some recruiting services. Stefan Green quietly took the step that I think we were all hoping to see from Vic Burley. And Stefan Green going into 2025 can be a legitimate difference maker for Clemson on the inside of the defensive line. It's big for a couple of different reasons. One, this is a Clemson defense that wants to stop the run in a much more effective manner than they did in the 2024 year. Stefan Green, he had 8 run stops in the 2024 year. I mean, he was good getting off blocks and making plays at the line of scrimmage. Also had 13 quarterback hurries with an 11% pass rush win rate. There's 2 questions you have for Clemson on the inside of the defensive line. Now, with DeMonte Capar coming back, the question about depth gets mitigated a little bit. But you look at every elite defensive line, even going back to the elite defensive lines that we saw Clemson have back in the day. One of the things they always had was depth. It's not just about the star talent, of which you have it with guys like TJ Parker and Peter Woods. It's also, hey, when Peter Woods comes off the field, because he's a 320-pound human being that needs a break every once in a while, what's the drop-off look like? For the elite defensive lines, there's a limited drop-off. Guys like Stefan Green, guys like Vic Burley, can they provide that depth for guys like Capard and Peter Woods where you don't really have a drop-off in play? when Peter Woods leaves the football field. And for me, for Stephon Green, it's not just about depth, because I think he can be a really good football player for Clemson as well. Took massive strides after his redshirt freshman year, or true freshman year in 2023. Stephon Green quietly broke out last year. Now, can he go be a real difference maker for Clemson in 2025? Last one we got to talk about, for the Clemson fans who've been following the boys for a while. Y'all know this is my guy. We broke him down 2 years ago when he committed to Clemson in the summer. Ricardo Jones. Ball hawking safety. And you do probably have some question marks about that single high safety. Who's it going to be for Clemson? RJ Mickens was so good for Clemson in 2024. I mean, Ricardo Jones, although dealt with a ton of injuries during his high school career, was an absolute ball hawk. I mean, double-digit interceptions. Can he be that guy for Clemson going into year two? We know he has the physical traits. He's long. He's really twitchy. He covers a lot of ground and has really good instincts going back to the high school ranks. Can he put it together for Clemson in that 2025 year? Not only in terms of being a ball hawking safety, but how about a safety that can come into the run, into the tackle box and support the run as well? He's got the frame to do it. Probably going to be north of 200 pounds as we get into the 2025 year. Rangy safety in the back end that can play that center field safety, go make plays on the football, has the body and frame to deal with tight ends and slot wide receivers in man coverage, has the body and frame also to come up into the box and stop the run and be supportive there. I think he's a star in the making. And if he does break out for Clemson in 2025, that probably answers the biggest question mark you might have for the defense. That is, hey, who are the difference makers at the safety position with RJ Mickens moving on? Sign me up for Ricardo Jones. Those are the 5 I got. Hindsight 2020, I would include Amari Adams in this conversation. I don't put a ton of stock in true freshmen coming in year one, making a huge impact on the line of scrimmage. We just saw it with Peter Woods 2 years ago. I think Amari Adams is that guy. We'll see if he can break out. A couple other names too. I mean, I feel like we forget about a decent amount of guys. I mean, I look at someone like Tyler Brown. He kind of broke out as a true freshman. He's going to be back healthy. A lot of names that really could emerge as difference makers for Clemson in 2025. Let me know who you guys have in the comment section. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.